Hi everyone, thank you for being here. I know it's a really tough time and it's kind of tough to do anything, so thank you for showing up. I'm Vivian, I work at RA and I'm also a creative, and I will be hosting tonight alongside my colleague Amy, who has left me to do the intro because she has a very thick Welsh accent, and we're going to ease you into it as the evening goes on. But yeah, today we just hope to give you like a bit of an introduction to public funding. Like, we know it can be pretty daunting, and I know that like the idea of like someone investing in me just because they believe in my idea, it feels like alien, and I'm always like, okay, but like what's the catch? So we just kind of want to show you that there isn't a catch, and just hopefully demystify the process a little bit, share some tips, and just give you the keys to get that shmoney. So the order of events will be, we'll hear from each different panelist for about 10 minutes. We have Amelia Bryden from Arts Council, Becky Scotcher from PRS Foundation, and Barnaby Duff from Help Musicians. And then we'll go into a Q&A. Now, everyone is on mute apart from those who are speaking, just to keep everything clean and ticking along nicely. And obviously, because it's Zoom and we're all at home and anything could happen, your mum could walk in and ask you why the dinner's not being cooked or something like that. Children could run into the room, I don't know. So let's just, in the interest of avoiding that happening, everyone's on mute, but please feel free to, at any point, drop a question in the Q&A box or in the chat, and it will all be answered towards the end. And yeah, without any further ado, I'm going to disappear so I can listen intently, and I'm going to pass you over to Amelie Bryden from Arts Council. Thank you.
Thanks, Vivian. That was really great intro, and I just second that. Like, it's really great that so many of you are here to make it. Like, it is a really, really difficult time. So it's really great to see so many of you here, and we're really delighted that Resident Advisor could host this session for us. So thank you for welcoming us to your screen. But in another world, we'd have been probably sat around a table somewhere. So just going to talk a little bit about the Arts Council and how you can get some funding, basically. So my name's Amelie. I'm a relationship manager for Arts Council England, and I'm on the music team, which is national. And joining me today is my colleague Akash, who's also a relationship manager for music, but he's here kind of in the background. Wave if you can see him, and he's going to help answer any kind of specific questions that you've got for us via the chat function. So we're just going to try and do 3 things today. Like, 10 minutes is just a super brief introduction really to what we do. We do have a lot of webinars where we go into more depth about how to specifically answer little bits of the application forms and kind of what's the best way of making your application as strong as possible. And these are going to be running weekly from March 21. So yeah, so this is kind of like a bit of a flying visit, if you like, but we do have a lot of material available on our website, and we can share links as we're going along as well if you want further information, like right now. So we're going to introduce Arts Council England, explain a little bit about how we give away public funding to help people like you and what funding is available. And then we're going to talk a little more about 2 of our most popular funding programs, outlining kind of like the main difference between the 2 and what you can and can't apply for in each one, which might be the best fit for your individual needs. And then as we're going along, as I say, we're going to be answering your questions. So please type them in the chat box, and we'll get back to you throughout the session. Okay, could we have the next slide, please? Yes. Thanks, mate. So, yeah, it's a really good question, right? I mean, we can offer you funding all year round for a variety of things. It just has to fit what you want and what we want. So we support projects that inspire and provide opportunity for you and for other people. You can apply to us for a project, to create a product, or develop your own practice. And like I say, we offer advice sessions and online support all year round. And we really need to hear from you, because we can't give away our funding unless people apply. So we absolutely need your great ideas and your inspiration and your ambition to be coming through to us. Just as a little acknowledgement, I'm sure like a lot of you are here because work has just almost completely dried up because of the pandemic, and I suppose it's useful to kind of summarise what the Arts Council has been doing for the last year in response to that. So for the first period of lockdown between April and July, we basically spent all of our money and all of our reserves and all of our ring-fence funding on doing this emergency response fund, which anybody could apply to. And it was literally like to pay your bills, to pay the rent, like just to survive, and individuals could apply for up to £2,000, like literally no strings attached. And it was really important, I think, that we did that, and it was a very humbling experience to be part of that. But that fund is closed and it hasn't got any plans to relaunch at that level of benevolence. Like, we're not a benevolence funder, really. That was quite extraordinary times. So in July 2020, we relaunched our main funding programme that we're going to talk about today, National Lottery Project Grants. And we put extra money in that for freelancers and individuals. And we made some contributions where we could to benevolence organisations like Help Musicians, but also across the arts like drama and theatre, and everybody was suffering. So we just tried to spread our money as wide as we could. And at the moment, you're probably aware, we are distributing government funding through the Culture Recovery Fund programme, which is part of the government's 1.57 billion recovery package of support to the arts, which is aimed at organisations. And the minimum you can apply for is 25,000 in this round, which closes next week. We're not specifically talking about that fund in this session, mainly because there's a special team that do all of the webinars and all of the presentations. There's been quite a few, and they're all recorded and they're all on our website, so we can share the links if you're interested in that fund. There's a lot of information available on the website, but this is more a focus about what we've got currently for sort of individuals, freelancers, small arts organisations, and these are programs that we're always running all year round that have got nothing to do with the pandemic, even though we've repurposed them slightly to make them a better fit for people. So yes, we do have funding. It's just about making the right fit, and yeah, we really want to hear from you. They're the main takeaways for this. So please, could I have the next slide? I'll try and race through a bit quicker, sorry.
Oh, I seem to be freezing. Is this the next slide?
Yes, that's the one. So the first fund that I'm going to talk to you about really quickly is called Developing Your Creative Practice. You can apply for grants of between £2,000 and £10,000, and there's no requirement to find any other of that funding. You can just apply to us for the whole amount. There's 4 rounds a year, and the most current round, which is open now, you can apply until midday on the 18th of February. And there are 4 rounds a year. You can apply as many times as you need. So if you're not successful the first time, you can apply again in the second round. It's for individuals and small groups of practitioners, but not organisations. It's a relatively short application form that basically asks you to tell us about where you are in your creative journey and where you want to get to, and how we can be that step change. So this funding is all about a learning process for you. It's not about an end product at all. That's what we'd come to Grants for the Arts for, National Lottery Project Grants for. It's really competitive, so unfortunately most people that apply aren't successful, but we've massively increased the budget to try and reflect the current situation and the current need for people to be just feeling like they're doing something and progressing in some way. So it's a really exceptional fund, and there aren't really any other funds like it, in terms of you can be entirely selfish and you can come in for something that you'd never normally have the time and money to kind of invest in yourself with. So I'll just quickly run through the kinds of things that you can apply for. If we could have the next slide, please. So yeah, research and development time to explore your practice and take risks. You can experiment with new collaborators, whether that's artists or promoters or mastering engineers, whatever that might be. You can build new networks for future showing or development of work. Remember, it's not about presenting new work, it's just about getting to the point where you could in the future. You can apply for professional development, but also artistic development. Travel, even in these unprecedented times, we've been awarding people funding to travel when it's safe to do so, to certain parts of the world, to meet artists or practitioners or really interesting folk doing great stuff all around the world. You can apply to make your practice more sustainable, and you can develop new ways of working, including digital and socially distanced. It's not an exhaustive list, by the way. Next slide, please. One of the things that you'll learn about public funding, unfortunately, is that there is always, it's not a catch, but it's like there's some aspects of what you'll want to do that might not fit with the requirements of that specific fund. So we're always quite open and publish these as we're doing here. We can't fund continuation of existing work where there's no clear development, any university, college, professional education fees, film, cinema or TV as an art form, because the British Film Institute fund a lot of lottery funded projects, general research and development for public facing projects, loss of earnings or backdated expenditure, or performers whose proposal is to perform someone else's work without providing any creative input or leadership. Next slide, please. So just to race through National Lottery project grants. Okay, so this is our biggest and most popular fund. It's available all year round, so there's not different rounds. You can apply at any time, and you can apply for grants of £1,000 to £100,000, and anybody can apply. You can be an individual that's never applied for anything before, or you can be a commercial label. You could be a festival, a community group, a library, a museum. It's literally open to everybody within the requirements of the fund. The trick is that it has to focus on projects that engage people with art and culture. So it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to get funding just for you to sit and create something in your bedroom. That's probably more fitting with developing your creative practice. There are exceptions to that, but the vast majority of the time it's about a project that has some kind of engagement with people. You will have to tell us about the artistic quality, and remember that the artistic quality isn't just about your quality or the quality of the artist that you're working with, but also the quality of your idea, right? So it's the quality of what you're proposing to do. And you will also be asked about public engagement, which trips a lot of people up. And it's definitely worth attending some of our webinars where we specifically focus on public engagement and what we mean. In a nutshell, it isn't just the people who come to your events. It's not just ticket buyers. It can also be you and the other artists and the other community of people that you're engaging with. So it's not always clear cut, and lots more people than you think are probably engaging with your project. Finance and management, pretty straightforward. The only key tips really there are that the budget must balance, right? So it's not about having some investment, some seed funding to then turn into a commercial project. Whatever you get in terms of grant funding, you have to spend, but that doesn't mean you can't pay yourself, because we absolutely expect to see artists getting fair pay and everyone involved getting fair pay. So you can pay yourself out of your project grant, but it can't be seen to make a profit. And the management section is really just about how you or your partner's experience in managing sort of similar sized projects, whether that's at work, you've got that experience, or whether you've done that through your own creative career. You will have got a lot of management experience that you possibly haven't sort of framed in that way. As I would say, as a top tip, it's always useful to get 3 people to check through your application before you submit it. So somebody who understands music or the art form that you're working in, maybe someone who's applied for funding before, and definitely someone who knows nothing about what you're doing. That's always a really useful benchmark, because sometimes a lot of the stuff can be in your head and you're not always getting it out in quite the most clear and concise way. Still me a lot. So I guess the main differences between project grants and developing your creative practice: one is about a process. So developing your creative practice is all about you. It's not about an end product. It's not about reaching people. It's just about you developing yourself. And National Lottery project grants is kind of the opposite. It's about an end result. It's about an end product that's going to reach people in some way. So next, we're just going to quickly look at what you can apply for in project grants. It's not the one I've got. Sorry, maybe the next one. There it is. Thank you very much. So you can apply, again, this is not an exhaustive list. You could apply for developing work. You could apply for rehearsals, for performances, for touring live shows, for recordings. Digital content is very popular at the moment because of obviously the situation that we're in. Similarly, purchasing musical instruments and equipment. And post-COVID, yeah, a lot of focus on letting people apply for research and development, to think and kind of plan, work out how you're going to get out of COVID, or what your future practice might look like as a result of the pandemic. Next slide, please. We absolutely can't fund activities that don't align to one of our art forms. So, music is definitely one of our art forms. Anything related to that, we just can't really cover film. and TV. Anything with no potential benefit to the public, even if that's in the future. Anything that involves your general running costs and overheads, any statutory further or higher education costs, anything that takes place before we can make the decision, so any retrospective costs, we can't cover those, international activities where there's no benefit to people in England, activities that aim to make a profit or are based around fundraising, i.e. for charities, or underdeveloped applications, which is bold and underlined because that is the one that trips people up the most in terms of not quite meeting the requirements. So I would always recommend reading everything that's available. We've got lots of really handy pre-recorded videos as well on how to apply, and we've got lots of advice sheets, and we're going to be running lots of webinars in the coming months. So please don't let that happen to your application. Next slide, please. So we've talked a lot about signposting. I'm hoping we're going to share these slides with you so you don't need to scribble everything down, but basically everything is on our website, and I've got a link there to our project grants pages, the email of our customer services team who since lockdown have basically been working via email. Our phone lines have not opened basically since April 2020, so but they will reply to you within 5 working days. As I say, we're going to be aiming for weekly or at least fortnightly advice webinars across the music team post February 21, so beginning of March. And you can email inquiries with any kind of access requirements that you have as well. If you need somebody to help you write the application or translate or read it out loud to you if you're visually impaired, we can support you with additional money to do that as well. So I think that was probably about as much information as I'm going to make sense. But obviously, any questions, pop them in the chat. And if any questions occur to you later on in the presentation, then again, please feel free to pop them in the chat. And Akash and I will be looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very handy, and I'm sure it sparked a lot of questions in my head, but I'll wait till the end. Now we are going to hear from Becky from PRS Foundation. Over to you, Becky.
Great, thank you very much. Hey everyone. Yeah, we'll get the presentation up once we're getting going. Amazing, thank you very much, Amy. Yeah, so I'm Becky. And I work at, oh look, already typo on the front one, brilliant. I work at PRS Foundation. PRS Foundation is a funding body. We're the leading charitable funder of new music and talent development in the UK. So our core aim is to help music creators from all backgrounds really realise their full potential. So we do that by giving out small grants to artists and organisations with a focus on timely, responsive investment, with meaningful collaborations with many of our partners in the music industry. And, you know, we're talking about PRS Foundation funding in this particular section. Just a little bit about me. I've worked in music for over 18 years, labels, music development agencies, events, and in international artist development. And I am the Senior Grants and Programs Manager, working across everything that we do at PRS Foundation. And I manage a team of 5 across all of these funds and programs. Next slide, please. So we give out around 500 grants every year to support new music. And by new music, we mean that we support anyone who is writing their own original music. So we are focused on the composition, so the songwriters and the composers and the producers. We can't support kind of performers in that respect unless you are creating new original music. We mostly support kind of the performance, promotion and creation of that new music, and our grants vary in size, so from about £500 all the way up to 25,000. Around half our money goes out to organisations who run their own programmes and to support music on a grassroots level, and they tend to be our most substantial, so between £10,000 and £25,000. And then the other half go to music creators, and they're smaller amounts between £1,000 and £15,000. So our funding is there to help music creators to get to sustainable positions in their careers. We do a lot of work on what we call the talent pipeline. We try and spot those gaps and barriers that are preventing people from getting to that sustainable position. And then we shape our funding around those gaps to plug it. Next slide, please. Great, thank you. So as you can see on the screen, this is how we split our funding opportunities, and we have options for all genres and all career levels. Essentially, I'm going to talk a little bit about organisations, but as an organisation, you can apply for project funding through an open fund, or you can commission a new commission through schemes like New Music Biennial or Resonate. And then for significant talent development programmes, we have our Talent Development Partner Network. We have 49 of those across the UK at the moment, and that includes people like Saffron, Audio Active, Urban Development and Drake Music. As a music creator, though, you would apply for direct support based on your career level and based on what your upcoming plans might look like. If you're making your first waves in music, then we have bespoke early career support that offers small amounts of money with mentoring and manufacturing support. If you have a bit of buzz and you're building a team, we have Next Steps funds, which offer more money and added value through industry partnerships. If you have listeners internationally and you have demand overseas, then we have international opportunities. And then at all levels, across all genres, if you have a project that is going to have a significant impact on your career, then you can apply for project funding through the Open Fund. As I say, I'm going to cover organisations briefly, but I will focus mainly on music creators for this presentation. Next slide, please. So the Open Fund comes under two levels. So there's the Open Fund for organisations, supports new music projects led by promoters, talent development organisations, venues, festivals, curators, or large performance groups. The projects must involve the creation, performance and promotion of new music and enable those songwriters, composers or solo artists, producers of all backgrounds to develop creatively and professionally. You can apply for up to £10,000. There are 3 deadlines a year. We've supported people like AVA Festival, Brainchild, NTS, Yorkshire Sound Women Network. So basically, you, as an organisation, as a festival, for example, you can apply to put those artists on your stages, or you can commission an artist to create some new work. So we cover those areas along with music creator residencies, recording and release, and community projects as long as they involve a high quality music creator. We do support promotion and marketing, but only when there's an element of creation and or performance. We don't fund purely marketing and PR costs. For music creators, it's again about supporting the development of the songwriters, composers, producers and artists in all genres. And activity can include creation of new music, music creator fees, so similar with Arts Council England, to cover your time and your work, touring and live performance. That also includes online performance and streaming, recording and release, creative residency costs, fees to creative collaborators. And again, similarly, as I mentioned, we can't fund 100% promotion and marketing. There has to be that element of creation or performance. We changed our guidance so that you can now come in for up to 20% of the project budget for equipment, because we recognise that a lot of creators are now at home and require that equipment to continue and build on their careers. And you can apply for up to £5,000. With this form for creators, you can apply in a written form or via video. And yeah, the next deadline is on the 12th of February, excuse me. And as you can see, Afro Deutsche was one of our grantees, Sink Your Teeth, Ryan Vale, Low Island, Speakman Sound. So we have a lot of artists come through the Open Fund, and it is for all career levels. It's not just for those who are just starting out. Next slide, please. Next. So Women Make Music is a targeted fund. It supports the development of outstanding women music creators. It's to break down the assumptions and stereotypes within the music industry, raise awareness of the gender gap, and also to increase the profile of women who are creating new music in the UK. And it also is kind of that first step a lot of the time that some women may have in terms of coming to us for support. It's very similar to the Open programme. It runs 3 times a year at the same time. You cannot apply for both the Open Fund for music creators and Women Make Music at the same time. You must choose one or the other, otherwise we won't accept your application. And it covers the same things. So it's creation of new music, music creator fees, touring, live performance, things like that. And again, as I say, the deadline's the same as the others, so it's the 12th of February. Next slide, please. So this is this is kind of our next steps fund. So you're gaining momentum, you have buzz, you're starting to get a team around you. So PPL Momentum Music Fund is for artists and bands at crucial career tipping points for projects that will have a significant impact. And what we mean by crucial career tipping points is, have you been profiled and featured in national press, media? Have you received coverage in UK-wide blogs? Have you played shows or been asked to play multiple shows across the UK? Can you evidence a really strong fan base nationally and regionally? And as I said, do you have at least one team member? So is that a manager, booking agent, label? So we can support you through recording, so through new album, EP, single, producer, engineer, mix feeds, studio hire, session musicians, UK touring, so not international touring, just UK touring, marketing and promotion. But we will always prioritise expenditure that helps the artist develop professionally and creatively. So we will always prioritise kind of cost towards that creation of music or that professional development over that marketing and promotional cost. What you can't get through PPL Momentum is van or car purchase, international touring. We don't enable the support of a roster of artists. So as a label, if you have a roster of artists, you can't come through to us on Momentum or on the Open Fund. Projects that are requesting funding that would or is or could be covered by the deal that you have with a label, publisher or management company. You can't support building a studio and things like that through Momentum. We run it in partnership with all the UK arts councils and along with PPL and Spotify. Some people who come through Momentum are people like Brian Vale, Flavour D, Elder Island, Anna Meredith. So it's that Next Steps Fund. So we have lots of, same with Arts Council England, we have lots of webinars online that go through the intricacies of each of the funds and how you apply to them and how you can present the best case for support. Next slide, please. So Hitmaker is our behind the scenes fund, essentially. So it supports those behind the scenes songwriters and producers working in popular music genres to further develop their careers with grants of up to £10,000. We can support time to create, training, skills courses, creative and professional development, studio hire, purchase of equipment, software and hardware, up to 25% of costs, tracking, UK writing space rental, maternity leave and childcare, and you can cover international activity that can build your profile and have a creative development benefit. So this is not for artist projects, this is purely for those songwriter producer behind the scenes. There's now 3 deadlines a year, and you've just missed one. The next deadline will be up on our website. And you can see we've supported people like Fanatics, Bok, North Downs under this fund. And yeah, we really welcome more applications to this, but there's definitely some good guidance through our Facebook page and on our website for this. Next slide, please. So I put in the Composers Fund because there may be some of you who are, excuse me, more on that classical bent, perhaps. It's an opportunity for composers with a strong track record. It gives direct access to funding at pivotal stages of their careers, and it invites established composers to make a case for the kind of support that will enable them to make a significant step change in their career. Since last year, it's been run in partnership with Jerwood Arts. You do have to be a member of PRS for Music. You cannot be all in a position to join. You can't be a member of another performing rights society to access this fund. And it's, as I say, up to £10,000, and the next deadline is the 6th of April. Next slide, please. So finally, we have our International Showcase Fund, which was severely impacted by the pandemic. We run it in partnership with PPL, British Underground Department of International Trade, and the UK Arts Councils. It offers support for UK artists to reach a worldwide audience through real life or virtual performances at key showcasing festivals such as South by Southwest, Eurosonic, ADE, MUTEC. We also support writers and producers to attend songwriting camps, which are geared towards international collaboration and creative and career progression. We have modified this fund in relation to the pandemic. So as I say, you can see you can apply for up to £2,250 for virtual events. This is where you would have been invited to perform at this event, and you need to record, film this performance, get it edited, and then participate in that. We've supported people like Subtract, Klein, AJ Tracy, Kelly Lee Owens, George Fitzgerald through this fund. It is slightly complicated for this fund at the moment, but you have to have an official invitation. It can't be just a normal festival. It has to have an industry audience. It's all about that export, and it's all about taking your next step, your first steps into that international territory. Next slide, please. So this is just a selection of some of the people who we work with. So you can see Spotify, PPL, British Council, Sirius. So there's a lot of industry partners that we have, and they provide support across a lot of our funds. Next slide, please. And finally, how you can get in touch. So you can see our social handles. You can look on our website. You can email us at info@prsfoundation.com. For more kind of support on what funds are more appropriate to you. As I say, we have lots of webinars, lots of online sessions that you can watch to kind of acquaint yourself with all the funds that we have. In terms of top tips, I would always make sure that you go through your budget and break it down. We get a lot of applications from people who just say, I'm going to spend 5k on marketing, and don't explain where it's going and why it's going there. So that's my kind of number one top tip.
Sick, thank you. Yeah, mad. There's a lot of money available for cool things, which no one knows about. So thanks. And finally, we're going to hear from Barnaby from Help for Musicians before we go into our Q&A. I can see like some questions are being answered, but yeah, we'll just continue on. Barnaby, over to you.
Okay, let me just load up your presentation. 1 second.
Thanks very much. Hi, everyone. Thanks for making it tonight. Yeah, so I'm Barnaby from Help Musicians. Been working there for a few years now, and today I'm going to explain the breadth and depth of our support and hopefully give you a good sort of whistle-stop tour of everything that we do and everything we might be able to offer you. So yeah, if we go to the next slide, please. So who are we? Help Musicians. We've been around for about, actually, bang on 100 years now. It's our centenary. It's really exciting. Yeah, yeah, well old. So we've always offered health and welfare support. That's been our historic sort of thing. And in the 1980s, we expanded into creative funding, project funding. And now, nowadays we do kind of mentoring as well. So we call it triangle support, which I'll tell you all about. But basically we offer a real sort of breadth of support for musicians, kind of not just in their careers, helping them build sustainability, but also in their lives, helping them build healthy habits musically and at home as well. So yeah, I'll explain a bit more about the Creator Programme and the Health and Well Programme in the next slide. But first, I'll tell you about our guy, Gervais Yules, who tragically died in a railway accident touring the US, and he had a lot of potential, and he had some really, really prominent sort of friends as well, Elgar and Vaughan Williams, who in sort of a tribute to him made the Musicians Benevolent Fund, which in 2014 rebranded into Help Musicians. And as I was saying, yeah, we've begun by helping musicians who are struggling with debt, with injury that prevented them playing, performing, and earning a living. And since then, we've expanded into regional bases. So we're all across the UK. We've got an office in Belfast, one in Glasgow, and we've expanded our breadth of support as well. So we offer now mentoring. We offer mental health and emotional support through our 24/7 helpline, and also project funding, so grant funding on top of that. Next slide, please. Yeah, what makes us different? So we like to think we're here for kind of a lifetime support when it's needed most, which is to say that, you know, once you get to that professional standard of being a musician and you're over 18, we can help you, you know, do your creative projects. A few years later, you might need help, with physiotherapy. So if you develop some bad techniques and need some help with that, or if a coronavirus strikes and you need some help with paying your way with debt and stuff. So it's really that safety net that we try and provide that helps musicians throughout all stages of their career, whether it's a good stage or whether it's a slightly less positive stage. We're someone that you can turn to in all sort of stages of your career. So this is what it looks like. Our creative funding support being at the top sort of style, where we give grants for all types of activities. Whether it's learning or development, or whether it's releasing, recording, touring, promoting. We offer grants for that through an application process online. Business skills are added on top of that as well. So we work with an agency called Think Music, who provide us mentors, and we handpick them and match them with you depending on your genre specialty. So we get someone, electronic, who know that kind of scene, know that kind of field, and be able to guide you through that. And offer expertise in how to build your brand, how to operate as an independent artist in today's crazy, times, and also, health and welfare techniques as well through our partners at BAPAM. So we can offer you a consultation and help you work through anything that you need to health-wise as well. Application support we also do. We can talk to you one-to-one over the phone. We do these each week where you can get guidance on your application and find out how to build a plan and how to make it happen, really. Next slide, please. So this is what we're talking about in terms of what you might need. So when you're breaking through, when you're emerging, we've got schemes transmission, which is open now. The deadline for that is Monday at 9 o'clock. And this is our learning and development scheme. So grants of up to £1,500 to do something like a short course. We're looking for, obviously, COVID-friendly projects. So stuff that can happen, in today's lockdown times. So you might want to do some online mentoring with an artist that you really admire. You might want to learn some software techniques, some new software, or you might want to build your skills collaborating with other people as well on online sort of forums and stuff, or masterclasses. So that's what we can offer at the moment. And we've also got the Mobile Help Musicians Fund, which is grants of up to £3,000 with business advice on top. We've got the Fusion Fund, which is a bit more sort of cross collaboration, so you can do really interesting sort of collaborations with people like playwrights, or I think someone mentioned writing a book. We've funded a project like that with a Welsh band called Year Odds, where an author wrote a book alongside their EP. Peter Whittingham Jazz Award we've got as well, and the Do It Differently Fund, as you mentioned as well, is our flagship fund, which we really hope sort of encompasses everything that we do, in that it offers a health and welfare package alongside business advice, mentoring, and also free membership as well to the FAC, which is the Featured Artists Coalition, who can offer legal advice, which is really valuable. So stuff like that to start you off as an emerging artist. I should say, actually, you can apply whatever stage you're at to creative funding. We don't exclusively fund emerging artists, but also stuff like crisis support. Our Healthline Music Minds Matter is a free service with trained therapists that you can ring up any time of the day and get some emotional support. The Musicians Hearing Health Scheme, which I think will be really of interest to you guys, especially. It's a heavily subsidised service where you can go to an audiological centre and they test your ears, and they can give you free, not free, but I think they're £40 down from about 280 quid, where you can get specialist earplugs that are actually moulded to your ear. And I've got a pair and they're really useful, and you can get them in any colour as well. I've got translucent purple, and they're really cool. So yeah, we offer support all throughout your life, really, and to retire as well. Not to get too morbid, but we can help with like funeral costs. We do stuff like respite holidays. So say if you're a musician that's really burnt out, we can support people just have a bit of a break, which is really nice. We've helped disabled musicians kind of make their homes more accessible. We've even bought people like washing machines if that's what they need. So it's a real person-centered approach that we do, really trying to build around the individual and their needs. So yeah, next slide, please. So yeah, kind of a lot of what I've mentioned already, really. Financial grant support in times of need. So yeah, if you're ever struggling with money or anything, it's Think of Help Musicians. Help in a crisis, whether that's a mental health crisis. We've got the expertise in-house and through our Music Minds Matter service to fall back on. Long-term illness and retirement I've told you about. And the Emerging Musicians Health Scheme as well. This is grants of up to £700 for people who are starting out, who may have any issues, any health issues. So yeah, and you can apply via the Help Musicians website, as I've mentioned. We've tried to make it a really kind of easy, accessible form as well, just to say. Just 3 questions. You can do all of them in video, or you can do a hybrid, where you do a couple of written, one video. And we've got all the sort of links and guidance bits embedded in the form. So if you've never done a budget before, there'll be a little advice article for you to look at to show you how to do a good budget. And we're, of course, as I say, on hand to talk to you and guide you through if you need it. Next slide, please. So what we've been doing since March 2020, we did a hardship fund. We funded over 20,000 people just to help them tide over, really, and it was emergency support. People could apply for £500 or more and get the support they need immediately, just to tide them over. And we're still doing that support now. That was hardship 1, we're calling it. Hardship 3 is open now. So if you're someone that needs financial support, please get onto the website and have a look. coronamusicians.info will have that link for you to apply, but it'll also have other governmental kind of advice and other music bodies that might be able to help, and all the resources are pulled into that one central space. So please do check that out if you're worried or concerned at all about today. Next slide, please. Yeah, I kind of mentioned this already as well, but the Music Minds Matter service is 24 hours, and we've got trained counsellors, trained therapists, people who really know what they're doing, talking and guiding you through it. The service kind of works is you can ring it up, and there's, press 1 to speak to a counsellor and press 2 to speak to a trained advisor. And the difference is the trained advisor can talk you through any type of thing. So if it's debt, if it's like law thing, if it's anything, kind of that you need advice on, right now there's someone there that can really help talk you through it, which is really useful. And it can also lead as well to more formal sort of CBT, so formal counselling, of course, over video call, and in the future it'll be normal CBT, person to person. Next slide, please. This is another thing that we've done with music support. It's kind of like what's the Headspace kind of sort of app, where there's breathing techniques, meditation, sleep kind of techniques as well. So it's us as a charity developing it with our friends at Music Support. And it's just really useful to kind of keep track of how you've been feeling. Obviously, this is like a doubly sort of tough time because it's January, which always sucks, and then you've got the global pandemic on top of it. So yeah, it's actually a really useful tool to help guide you through this sort of time, and to build a little bit of momentum, because it is something you have to build on, I think, your mental health, and that you have to kind of and this is a really useful tool for that, I think, and we've had some really good feedback about it. And of course, it's free. You can download it off the App Store or wherever. Next slide, please. Yeah, so further information, we've got a funding wizard, which is a search engine where you can find all sorts of grants and trusts, not just us. But you can find more information out on our website about all the funding schemes that I've mentioned, and you can get into contact with me. I'll put my email in the chat, and we can talk further of opportunities. But do check out the coronamusicians.info and our normal website, and sign up to our newsletter for whenever we drop new schemes and information and opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Cool. So I guess we'll go into the Q&A now, and I'll pass over to Amy. But before I do, I'm just gonna selfishly ask a question to Amelie about creatives who don't necessarily like specialize in, there are a lot of people in the music industry here, but I know there are some people who aren't. So any tips and like maybe examples of DYCP applications that are like outside the realm of music, and because I feel like it's sometimes a bit harder to do.
Okay, yeah, I guess we have kind of targeted this quite music specifically.
Yeah.
But the Arts Council is a little different, I guess, to PRS Foundation and Help Musicians in that we are we are there to support every of our defined classifications of the different arts that are out there, like basically combined arts, or like digital arts, or visual arts, or literature. Museums and libraries can also apply. So all of the funding streams that we have, I think this is why sometimes they're a little bit hard to navigate, because you'll be doing exactly the same application form and exactly the same advice and exactly the same guidance if you're applying to write a book as if you were applying to make a theatre, like, you know, a play, or whether you were planning to make an immersive piece of digital art. So really the advice and guidance is pretty much the same. I guess, yeah, like you say, some of the examples that we've used might be a little bit more nuanced if you attended one of our visual arts sessions, for example. But I suppose developing your creative practice, all of the applications that have been awarded funding are published on our website, and there's also case studies that you can find there, so I can definitely drop something in the chat. I mean, the thing with developing your creative practice is it's so specific and niche to exactly that person's need. Like, I was researching some of them before this session just out of interest, because we opened it to creative technicians as well, which is something that's like super vague, right? But a lot of like mixing engineers were able to apply, so I was quite interested in looking at what they were applying for, because that's quite outside the realm of what we usually fund. And there were some really interesting projects. Like, there was this woman who was a sound engineer, and she wanted to learn coding so that she could develop a software that meant that when she was back doing live mixing, instead of having loads of monitor screens, she could just have one dashboard, and she just wanted to build that dashboard. But she wasn't going to build it as part of the project. It was just going to be learning the skills so that at some point in the future she might be able to use the two skill sets. Or there was somebody that wanted to just go away for like 6 months and learn all about spatial 3D audio so that they could make their art installations much more immersive. So it's really quite difficult to kind of give specific advice and examples, almost, because it might sway your ideas. But I mean, I don't know if you had a particular like, you know, topic in mind. You know, you're always welcome to kind of email and talk through it.
Yeah, no, I think I have like some friends who are writers, and I think it's hard because it's like I guess with music it's like I can just go and do this course, or I can just go and do this thing, but because it's not to fund an actual like an outcome, it's more to fund a process for maybe coming from like a perspective.
What actually is really worth saying with developing your creative practice, if you're applying kind of for like just an off-the-shelf course, like to learn Ableton, or to do, you know, to do some kind of specific music course, it's actually probably less competitive than if you are going out and finding your own specific like bespoke package of what exactly you need. So like, we've had people who have, what seems to be quite successful when people apply is finding mentors who are just people that you really respect, and just buying a bit of their time so that they can oversee some of your practice, even just have conversations with people. There might be a little bit of of online courses, but generally it's the more specific stuff that makes a better application anyway. So don't be too worried about it. In fact, it's designed to be like not off the shelf. It's designed to be completely unique to that person's needs, and they are the ones that are like the strongest ones to read.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so guys, don't be afraid if you're like from a wider creative community to drop your questions about that in here too. But I will now pass over to you, Amy, and you can sift through the questions. And
right, so we've only got a couple that haven't been answered already, so I'll start from the top. If we're not registered as a company, sole trader or freelancer, but have a history of invoices, email threads, posters, websites, etc., would this be enough to be considered as someone within the industry who's eligible for funding?
I think that, yeah, but I think it probably requires a bit more context on what that means. I think as an artist, if you're saying that we don't require to see the posters of your tours or anything like that. We will ask you kind of, how long have you been creating music for? Kind of what are your key highlights? And if you're an organisation, we'll want to know how long have you been either putting on artists, or how long, if you're a talent development agency, how long have you been supporting the development of those artists, and what outcomes have there been from that, so we know that we're giving money to the right people, doing for the right time, for the right reasons, if you see what I mean. It's a challenge on organisations front in terms of to prove your track record, but there are ways in which you can come through to us. We don't, at PRS Foundation, we don't generally support those who are for profit. It's generally not for profit for us.
Thank you, Becky. Next question. If you're awarded funding, what does an artist need to commit to? Is there mentoring and check-ins, and where do we need to share what we've been creating?
Just in terms of help musicians, what we tend to ask for most of our funding schemes is slightly different for a couple, and I'll explain those as well. But we give you a grant agreement, which is basically just like a contract, and we give you like a time sort of scale. So we give you installments, and then to get those installments, you have to provide just updates of expenditure, just so we have that kind of record for our audit and make sure all expenditure is kind of up to date. So yeah, it's just a good way of connecting with you and making sure you've got the support that you need as well throughout the process. So you're not just like, here's all the money and you have to just deal with all that. The anomalies are transmission, which is because it's kind of a fast track, smaller grant. We just want to give you kind of the money straight away, so that short course, all that mentoring. So in that case, you just provide just what we call a project confirmation. So if it's like, plane tickets, pre-COVID, or if it's an enrollment letter to the online course, or an email of correspondence with the course leader, confirming the activity.
Amelie, Becky, did you want to jump in on check-ins or follow-ups if someone's been awarded a grant?
Sure. I mean, I can see Becky's answered in the chat as well. Very similar at the Arts Council. If you apply for either of the funds that we've talked about today, you'll get, generally speaking, it's like 90% up front, and then 10% on submission of like an activity report to say what you did and what you learnt. And you set your own time frame for the project. That's part of the application. So you'll set out when you want to do things. And if anything needs to change, you can email our grant management team at any time and just say, look, I've been awarded this funding and this now can't happen. Is it possible to postpone the deadline, or is it possible to, slightly amend what I've agreed to do? And we'll always be really open to that. So the same really. It's not here's all the money now, go and deliver it, or we'll come and get you.
Okay, next one from Jupiter. Can developing your creative practice be as simple as just paying yourself so you can use that time to compose?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, in theory, if you can make the case that you need that time to compose, I suppose the difficulty is that we can't support people. Well, it's not as strong an application if it's just something that you'd be doing anyway. So when you were making the case in your application, you'd have to explain why you're at this point and you need to get to this point, and just sitting on your own and composing something is going to get you from A to B. Probably won't be quite as powerful an argument as if you were saying, I'm I'm at this point of my career, I've always worked with a lot of other people. I've never concentrated on my own stuff. So I want to spend some time developing my skills in composition. That's all fine. But then I'll probably embellish it by having some people that you could go and mentor or shadow, or having some kind of extra development for you, so that it definitely isn't just what you'd be doing anyway, and we're just paying you for it, if that makes sense.
Lovely. And just to follow up to that then, Jupiter's also asked, what happens if we get funding but then we realise we need to change our plans, like if we go in a different direction, which I think probably applies to quite a few of the grants if they're not sticking to what was outlined originally.
Definitely. And like I say, we're very flexible within reason. I think generally speaking, if you just want to kind of amend and adapt what you've set out to do, then it would be a case of contacting our grant management team, and you'd have all of that contact information if you were awarded funding anyway, and just outline what's changed. And usually you just have to put an updated proposal in to say what you'd rather do instead. In the very unusual situations which we experienced a lot in March and April, where existing grant recipients suddenly just had to cancel everything, we do try and be as supportive as possible, and we allowed a lot of repurposing of that funding. So like a festival wasn't able to happen, so we allowed them to use their grant funding to pay off everybody, so that they didn't end up with a load of debt, rather than delivering the festival that everyone was expecting them to deliver. So we'll generally be very understanding. The worst case scenario is sometimes that you just don't get the last 10% of the funding, but there'd be very, very unusual circumstances. Like, we really want to get the funding out the door.
Thank you, Emily. Okay.
So I would say, I think most funders are similar in that position, that as long as you keep us informed, that's the main thing. Just let us know what you propose, and we can say, yeah, all good, and off you go. It's just letting us know. If we don't know, I think it's generally, and then there's a complete shock and we've done something really random that we weren't funding you for, basically.
So communication is key, essentially, with you guys.
100%. The only thing I would add to that, because it's all completely the same with us, is that, if you apply for something like a learning and development grant, then you can't suddenly go, I want to go record and tour, so you can't really do a massive switcheroo. It has to be still under criteria.
It has to still meet the eligibility of the original fund that you applied for. That's a really good point, Barnaby. It would be the same with us as well. You couldn't suddenly go, I want to do this DYCP project instead of my project grant project. It has to still be eligible. But that's what I guess the same with you, Barnaby. That's what we do in that communication process, would be like, make sure it's still eligible for you.
For sure.
Message from Gloria. Can you apply for a grant to help further the process of recording, producing music? So buying software or equipment, or hiring out studios, mixing, mastering engineers?
PRS Foundation, you can. It depends on what level you are in your career. So we have Open Fund, which I've mentioned before, is all career levels. We make music. There's a cap though on equipment purchase with a total project budget. If you're kind of further along down the line and you're looking kind of and you're behind the scenes writer or a producer, you can come in for Hitmaker. But yeah, you can come in for all those things with us mainly across the board. So I would just check out our website, the different eligibility, because some of them are slightly different for each fund and have different limits.
Thanks, Becky. Did anyone else want to add to that one?
Yeah, same with us. I mean, for National Lottery project grants, you can apply for capital equipment purchase. There are some really useful guidance notes on how to do that and what we can and can't fund. Generally speaking, you have to be able to demonstrate, like if you apply for National Lottery project grants, you have to be able to demonstrate that how you're going to use the equipment and how it's going to be part of a project that's then going to be bigger than just buying that equipment, and how it's going to reach people, and what you're going to do to make the most of that equipment beyond the scope of the project. And for developing your creative practice, again, the same is true. You can definitely apply, and elements of that cost can be getting the right software or hardware that you need, but it's still wrapped around the bigger story, which is why you need it and what you're going to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Same with us. I think just with the Do It Differently Fund and the Mobile Help Musicians Fund, which are the funds in which you can apply for equipment, it's a 50% cap. And what I'd really advise that would make a strong application is, buying some equipment and then learning how to use it, or explaining the context in which it's useful for you to kind of earn a living and create a sustainable career. Yeah.
Thank you. I should also add, like, are these funds like mutually exclusive? So if an artist was to apply for a Help Musicians one or PRS or DYCP, is that possible? Or would, I'm guessing you obviously work together but not together. How does that work?
I think it depends on the funder, because some funders don't do match funding from other funders. One thing I will say, we don't fund 100% of costs. We will always expect a contribution from elsewhere. We get it a lot, always asking for 100%. It's just, even if you're putting in £100 or your management or whatever, we like to see co-investment from elsewhere or within yourself. And in terms of other arts or funder organisations, we can't, basically there's a whole thing called double funding. You can't fund the same activity within the same project. So say, for example, somebody had come through developing your creative practice and they'd had done an R&D, but then they wanted to release an album based on that development. They could then come into us for that recording, or say, for example, it's a recording and a touring, like a whole campaign. You know, maybe one funder might cover the recording and the other funder might cover the tour. But the one thing I would always bear in mind is to look at the individual funders' priorities, because we, as I was talking about earlier, marketing and PR is way down our list. Now, I know it's really important for everybody, but for us, it's all about paying the creative fairly, them actually creating that work, like, or putting it, recording it, or performing it live. Like, for us, that's our priority. So it's also seeing where you're kind of allocating that kind of budget line to which funder based on what they are looking to see. So it can be a little bit complex, but I would always suggest you talk to us before you have any concerns or want some clarification.
Thank you, Becky. Okay, we've got a couple more questions left. I run an arts collective that isn't focused on a specific craft, more looking at ways of supporting and spotlighting artists across a range of practices. Would the PRS Open grant be suitable for this, or is PRS more suited to individual artists? That's for you, Becky.
I'm not PRS, by the way. I'm PRS Foundation. They are a highly separate organisation. Although they did, found us, but I can see where the confusion lies. We support music creators, so composers and songwriters, and we don't support other art forms. We could. That's what we support. So you wouldn't, if I guess in terms of wider collective, you have a specific project that is supporting the development of those music creators that you work with, then that's fine, as long as you have a track record in doing that.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to do 2 more questions, if that's okay with you guys. One second, sorry. Before you apply for DYCP via Grantarium, do you need to have your budget already planned out? It looks that way from seeing the eligibility questionnaire before you fill out the actual online form.
Yeah, so I mean, in 10 minutes, I didn't go into Grantium. That can kind of have its own presentation. I would always recommend anybody applying to the Arts Council that you draft your application in Word or some other ODT text document before putting it into Grantium, because it's quite a clunky Grantium, and it's also quite difficult to kind of navigate through, and you do basically need to have your application. I would always find it easier to have the application ready to go and then copy and paste it into Grantium, because Grantium can chuck you out as well after 5 minutes of what it deems as inactivity, which is your mouse not scrolling for more than 5 minutes. You won't lose your work, but it's really annoying, because I think a lot of us have been there. So on our website we've got underneath all of the different funds that we've got available, there is a Word document that contains all the questions that Grantium will ask you and all the character counts. So I would always recommend using that as a kind of base template, and then writing it offline and then uploading it to Grantium. It's also easier for other people to read it as well.
Just on the DYCP topic, if they were unsuccessful last time, is it worth reapplying with the same idea?
Currently, there's absolutely no. It used to be the case before COVID times, that if you applied, you could only apply once that year, whether you were successful or not. And as part of our package of measures to try and be more supportive and get more money out, yes, you can apply for the same idea, although it would probably be an idea, if you were able to get any feedback on the unsuccessful application, to sort of try and work out how to strengthen it a little bit, coming to a webinar, for example, on DYCP, and kind of trying to edit it a little bit. But yes, you can definitely apply again.
Thank you. Amira, if you wanted to develop a teaching service, as in classically training people to become confident in a particular instrument, would this count as a creative practice that engages others?
Well, in terms of developing your creative practice, I would say that developing your creative practice would be about the bit before you set that up. So it would be about investing in your teaching skills, making sure that you had all of the right qualifications, making sure that you tested some assumptions, that there was demand, and I don't know, sort of all of the stuff that you as an individual would need to do before you set that up. It wouldn't be about setting that up. That would be much more like a project grant application. If it was actually teaching people, that wouldn't be developing your creative practice necessarily, unless aspects of what you were doing was sort of trialing some teaching methods on people, if that makes sense. But again, it's quite difficult to kind of summarize when you don't know the ins and outs of the project, but that would be my initial response.
We've just had a couple more questions, so if it's okay with you, we'll take the last two and then we'll call that a wrap. But I think if everyone's comfortable with me sharing the presentations with everyone, since I've got everyone's emails, and if anyone needs mine, it's avb@ra.co, and I can share if I didn't come to your email address. Anonymous attendee, what kind of evidence will you require to show we are developing careers? Would you accept evidence from previous events that have enabled this to show how future events will do the same?
I think that's for me. So it's around promoter putting on artists. Yeah, well, you would be able to say, like, I don't know, you put on X artist, and through then that kind of touring network, or they developed their audience in a certain region of the UK, or whether you had links with other venues and promoters that you then signposted them to, you evidence it through that. I mean, you know, we're going to take quite a lot of, you know, we do check, but there's a lot of trust in that. We're not going to minutely go through every line and be like, oh, well, did they play on this day? And I'm not suggesting you should try and fudge the system, because you will get found out eventually. However, you know, clearly, if you're putting on artists, they're growing a following, you have a platform that audiences are going to, you know, and that it's in, you know, a tiny, I don't know, middle of England, and there's not very much around, and they haven't really had a drum and bass night, and you're developing that, and there's a community for that, then clearly you are developing those artists creatively and professionally, because you're enabling them to expand their reach in that area and perform to those people. So it's just evidence in written form on the application. But if you, like I say, with all these things, it's hard to know without having the ins and outs of the actual project, and it's also nuanced. I think people think there's a one size fits all and there's a magic box, but there isn't. It's so individual, like so many artists' careers and so many artists' pathways, that it is all nuanced, and there's general guiding principles, but until we kind of know the ins and outs specifically of what you're trying to achieve and who you're working with and where you are, then it's very difficult for you to give a very clear answer.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I think that was super helpful for everyone who was listening. And yeah, Vivian, over to you.
Yeah, so helpful. I know that, like, yeah, I thought I knew about some of the funds, but I feel like I've learned a lot myself. So thank you so much. And I hope you guys have learned stuff. And I feel like maybe there'll be resources after. I don't know, but like, just if you have a question and you want me to shoot it in someone's direction, or people's emails are in the chat, so just enjoy, but make sure as well that you pass on the knowledge to people in your creative network, because people don't know about this stuff. So just make sure that you tell your friends to tell a friend to tell a friend, and let's all get the bag. Okay, thank you for coming, and yeah, bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.